right, good morning, everybody. It's hard to believe it's been almost 3 years since we were together in Cincinnati. I was thinking about this the other night, that the last time we were together in this massive audience was about 2 months or so before COVID hit. And who would have thought at the time that we would go from this kind of environment to something where we couldn't even get together with our loved ones and our family, in a gathering of larger than 4 or so without wearing masks and things like that. And back, here we are again. So I'm really, really glad to be back and good to see all some of the familiar faces that I haven't seen in many, many years. So I'm John Hannan, and I'm one of the technical division chiefs, and I actually have the privilege here today to be the first one of 6 of us to include our basic research and our STEM outreach division to talk about where we fit in the technical side of the house. And while I'll be talking specifically to my division here, I will also make some of the touch points along the way for the other divisions that will follow me so that you'll be able to see how these pieces of the puzzle all come together. And I'll likely be the only one walking around too. I don't like to be confined to a podium. So the obligatory mission and objectives, I'll let you read this for yourself. I don't want to go through this verbatim, but you see a lot of terms in here like data fusion, analytic capabilities, modeling, simulation, software, decision support tools. These are all the types of things that we're working on a daily basis in CBI, but when you distill this down to a fine point, what it's really all about is making sense of data so that the warfighters, our ultimate customers, can make informed decisions in a timely manner, whatever that timeline might look like. The software piece of it too, I don't want to lose that. Sometimes that's not a sexy thing to say when you're talking about research and development and S&T, but it is critically important for us to be able to field things quickly, to move into the agile modern software development paradigm. And you heard the DASD earlier talk about interoperability in C2 systems and up and down the echelons. That is what we're after in this division, really, is to make this data available and useful to the warfighter, our ultimate customer. And I will say also, before I get off this slide, we are huge consumers of the data, obviously, because a lot of what we do is manifested in models, algorithms, and things of that nature. But we also go the other way with pushing those out. So we interact quite a bit with all of the other technical divisions that you'll hear about in the minutes and hours to come. So I want to step back just real quickly and say where we were headed. So I talked about Cincinnati, and a lot of us were in Cincinnati back in November of 2019. So I thought it would be interesting to pull off one of the slides that I talked about there to say what it was, what we were up to at the time, and revisit that a little bit before going forward. And at this point in time, we were pushing things onto phones, smartphones and tablets and things of that sort, getting away from monolithic codes and software tools, and trying to break it down into smaller bite-sized chunks that users at a number of different echelons could actually use. We were also just starting to really get deep into the physiological monitoring, and you've already heard quite a bit about that, the watches and the rings. That was something that we were investigating, and who would have known that we were going to have a pandemic to work on 3 months after the fact. The medical modeling and human effects piece that we have ongoing, and this is one of the underpinning things that is in the portfolio when we talk about mod simulation, some of the dispersion modeling type things we do. At the end of the day, it's about how it affects the human, the soldier, or the civilian population. So we had quite a bit of robust S&T going on in this space, and we were just starting to tippy-toe into AI for optimal drug development with our counterparts in our medical division. So that's where we were back in Cincinnati, and then of course we were rudely interrupted by a global pandemic. But one thing about emergency response functions, and when something happens that you weren't expecting, is it's a really good gut check as to where you are with your S&T. Is it meeting the need? And we're always looking forward, obviously, too. But can you bring those things to the fight, and can you adapt on the fly? And that allows you, if you can say yes to those things, you're usually in a pretty good shape and you're actually moving in the right direction. So some of the things that we did, we had a very, very busy 6 months as soon as COVID hit. And some of the things that we adapted on the fly pretty fast were we accelerated this whole idea of the physiological monitors. So that pairing of the Oura Ring and the Garmin watch, we fielded 10,000 of those very, very rapidly to our civilian and military members to help with the COVID response. So part and parcel to that was retraining the machine learning algorithm that's behind all of this. to actually be able to detect COVID. So the people that were in the medical front lines in particular had some advance warning. We were also asked by the commander of TRANSCOM to help out with evacuation of COVID positive patients from a number of parts of the world. And the primary concern there was, how do you outfit the air crew? So the pilots, how do you outfit the staff and protective clothing to give them the kind of protection that they're gonna need from a virus that was largely unknown at that time. So what we were able to do, we had already been doing urban modeling and interior infiltration, exfiltration type things for our counterparts at JPO with a joint effects model. And we did that for aircraft. So very specific aircraft, we were asked what that would look like based on the HEPA filtration systems, what that almost computational fluid dynamics like flow looks, and what that meant for the, again, the crew that were gonna have to be masked up in the plane for a significant amount of time with a number of infected patients. So we were able to do that to provide answers to the TRANSCOM commander. And finally, we've always had our foot in epidemiological modeling capabilities, and some of those things were transitioned down to our reach-back counterparts at DTRA. They were absolutely overwhelmed with requests for information about how this largely unknown pandemic was going to transpire and what that was going to look like for not only military but civilian populations. So we spent a long time doing these sorts of things and a lot of effort, and there were a lot of people in this room out there that were involved, so I thank you for being part of the team during that emergency response. And just before I get off that, that's one of the beauties of working for a combat support agency that's also a defense agency, and we're dual-hatted in Chem Biodefense and DTRA, is that we have these sort of things pop up all the time. Every few years, it seems like something happens that gets us energized, whether it's Ebola, going even all the way back to the Tomodachi incident where the nuclear disaster affected us. These things happen all the time, and we're always able to pivot and bring things to the fight early and often. All right, so where are we now? So we didn't just do that for 3 years exclusively. We continue to push this idea of multi-echelon decision aids, and again, we heard early on about the sensor connectivity piece and how these things have to operate and interoperate and work quickly, and also transmit information up and down the chains of command or the echelon so that the people at the far forward edge are seeing and hearing the same things as you move up the echelon in the command structure. We've also moved out into enhanced situational awareness and XR/VR. So Colonel Grice walked off the stage with his headset. There's a number of things that we're looking at with brain-computer interface and how those things might be brought, not just for situational awareness, but enhanced training type environments. And I will not belabor the physiological status monitoring part of it because we've heard a lot about that already, but we are moving out now not into just am I going to get sick in 48 hours or 24 hours, but how severe is that going to be? What might be my recovery time and return to duty time? So quite a bit going on there. And finally, you heard a little bit touched on about medical data analysis and decision support. So this idea, this whole concept about layering different types of capabilities that are in our medical countermeasure portfolio right now into a way that helps us respond to whatever the warfighter is going to be faced with, depending on their mission and part of the world that they're going to be exposed to. Where to next? So this right here is essentially what you see on your agenda. These are all the sessions that you're going to see this week that the CBI team is running. And also some of these on the right-hand side are actually in partnership with our other divisions. So multiple science and technology managers will be working in tandem to manage these particular sessions. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, as division chiefs, we're getting up here giving you the broad perspective and the overview of the program. But it's the science and technology managers, it's the contract support people that we have on staff, the performers and the potential performers that actually make all of this work and make it happen. So thank you all. These are the people that will be basically leading up these conference sessions for the remainder of the week. And I'll throw their names out here. I promised them some of them I wouldn't do this and didn't want to embarrass them, but I forgot. So here they are. So again, this is all in your app. So I appreciate the time today, and I'm going to turn it over now to Dr. Rich Shotsky, who will be the second up for the technical divisions, and he leads the detection and diagnostics division. So thank you very much.